So today I've come along to Kirkistown in Northern Ireland for a Rotary Club meeting of the Mazda group. So as you can see behind me and you'll see throughout the day, all of the Rotary engines that was ever in Ireland is here today. The Rotary engine was invented by a man with no diploma, and his only experience was working in a bookshop. But a man called Felix Wankel invented the engine that started a lifelong love. Even though Mr. Wankel turned out to be a member of the Nazi Party, his design still lives on and will continue, with Mazda possibly bringing out a hybrid Rotary soon.
Driven this, yes, when it belonged to my husband.
Right.
But yes, I used to drive it.
So what was your husband's name?
Len.
Len. And what did Len buy this?
Oh yes, when it was about 2 years old. We were working out, he had it for about 4 years before he died.
All right.
And then it was given to my son. So that's how come it's here today.
So you drove it for a little bit between
when
your son taking it?
Yeah.
And what does it feel like to drive? Does it feel like a fast car?
It always wants to go just a bit faster than you perhaps wanted it to, or perhaps the speed limit. It wants to go.
And you were just out on the track as a passenger.
Yes.
What did that feel like?
Oh, it was great. It was exciting.
And your son was driving it?
My son was driving it.
Is he a good driver?
My son, the racing driver, yes.
And you've no problem driving that fast on a racetrack?
Me? Not when I'm being driven. I wouldn't do it myself. My reactions are not what they used to be. Definitely not fast enough for a racetrack.
And is your son going to keep the car?
I would think so. He really loves it.
It's very yellow.
It's very yellow. Yes, I think that's what the colour's called.
Yeah, it's very yellow.
Very yellow. It doesn't get on the road as often as the day-to-day car, but
you have to drive it more.
I don't think he'd let me. In fact, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't.
You're very good. Yes.
Columbia, this is Houston. One small step for my man.
The guys got in touch, so they're basically putting on the event for the 50th anniversary of Rotary Engine. Like the guys are great, as you can see. The turnout here today is like a community. Like everyone gets together, they all bring their cars together, show them off. Basically, it is their pride and joy, it's their hobbies. It is great. I mean, they have such passion for the brand, for the Rotary Engine, for MX-5s. It's great to see. It's great for us to see. If everybody else could have the same passion and enthusiasm with the Mazda brand,
Will you go to the track?
I don't know if we'll go on the track today. No, I'd love to rip it on the track, but I don't know if I will. I'd like to see some of the cars here ripping it around off today. There's some serious products. Like you can see, the guys really put their time and their money and their efforts into their cars. So it's not just the collection of old Mazdas, like people's hobbies and the time really put into the cars here. So it's great to see from that perspective.
main difference in a piston engine is, or in a rotary engine is, obviously there's a lot less moving parts. An awful lot less, probably about 100 less moving parts than there is in a piston engine. As well as that, the rotors inside the engine rotate, basically like an electric motor, whereas in the piston engine they're up and down, so that's why the engine is so much smoother. It's higher revving as well, because there's less limitations when you're rotating.
In comparison.
And it's tiny in comparison, and the CCs of it as well. Well, for years there's been debate about what the official CCs is, but the reality of it is, I think, that engine there really is 1308 CCs. Now, the output of that would be the equivalent to at least double in a piston engine. I think that'd be fair to say that. That there's putting out about 315 brake there, with just throttle bodies. But the engine is the same physical size, same CCs, still use the same 13B housings and all that there, but and they are now using side porting rather than direct porting, rather than like peripheral porting. Exhaust intake and exhaust and all now actually squeezes out the two sides of the chambers, where before it went straight out of the chamber. Now, there's good points and bad points to that, really, and the bad point about it is it leaves the engine not as tunable. You're limited to what you can do tuning it, because the exhaust ports, the side exhaust ports, are very restricted. The area they're going out of, you can't increase them a whole lot or whatever, so it leaves an RX-8 that if somebody wanted a real high powered RX-8, they have to put like triple rotor or something like that there, or go turbo or something like that. You can street port them and bridge port them probably up to about 260 horsepower or something like that, but I mean, if you want something like what's in this here, 300 or 300 plus, you wouldn't even use an RX-8 engine. You go back to the older engine, something like what we done this year, Probably 40 years working at them. I bought my first rotary engine in 1976, and I've never been without one, and sometimes, well, there's always more than one, but at least one about the place. And I even started building the engines then, way back, I was building the engines. Then for a few years, they brought the AFD out, Mazda did, and then it was marketed different. It was like a limited edition type thing, and there wouldn't have been as many of them floating about, and I nearly got out of them. I'll not say I got out of them, but I nearly got out of them. There just wouldn't have been much work at doing it, because they were so rare. They were expensive, they were high horse, real, like nearly a supercar, you'd nearly call them the FD. There's plenty of them in the back, along the back fence here today, but then I sort of went, obviously got married and had children and all the rest, and cars weren't as high in the priority, and then obviously RX-8's come back again in 2003 or whatever, so that got the passion rekindled again. Mazda, the RX-8 obviously came out in 2003, the upgraded or relaunched in 2008 to the R3 model with a lot of engine improvements, and successful at that. Higher oil pressure and an extra oil jet into the rotors, and bigger sump, bigger oil consumption, a load of all wee bits and pieces. Made very success, but literally 2 years after they'd done that, then the emissions must have been tightened, the European limits or whatever, so the car just didn't meet them anymore. In its current form, it didn't meet them, so they discontinued it probably before they wanted to. They let it. They wouldn't have been. The R3 would have been probably still in production yet. If it hadn't, if the emissions hadn't beat it.
So, whether this is the end of the Mazda Rotary engine story, or this is where it really begins again with a hybrid version or some other fuel source, whatever happens next, the Mazda Rotary Club of Ireland have managed to keep it going and keep it alive right here in Kirkistown Track for the entire day, with a community like nothing else I've seen so far. Hopefully that will continue into the future, and hopefully we'll hear a lot more about the Rotary engine. Who knows what's coming next? Only time will tell.